This video covers how to check in equipment when a rental ends, along with other end-of-rental processing, like adding sale items, adjusting prices, and producing an invoice. When the rental ends, start by opening the rental from the Order Rental locator. If you have to pick up the equipment, you can record the pickup date and time using the Pickup button. If the renter is bringing the equipment back to you, you can skip recording the pickup date and time and proceed immediately to marking the rental as returned. Click the Return button. The date will default to today, but you can use the Calendar button if you are recording a return after the fact. The time of the return is typed directly into the time field. Note the checkbox on this form. It says check this box only if the date and time shown above should be used when checking in individual assets, rather than the scheduled return date and time. There are two dates connected with a rental: the date and time that the rental ends, which affects the cost of the rental, and the date and time that the equipment is checked in, which affects inventory availability. There are a number of circumstances that will cause a rental to end, but the equipment being rented will return early or return after the rental is ended for billing purposes. The rental end date and time that you are specifying here will be used as the equipment's return date and time unless you specify otherwise, and that's the point of the checkbox. If a rental will end for billing purposes, but there will be a delay before the equipment returns to your inventory, something that's common if you must pick up the equipment or if it's being shipped back to you, or if the equipment has come back earlier than expected and you will want to rent it out again, you should be accurate in telling RentControl when the equipment has been returned to inventory. This need is particularly important if inventory comes back earlier than expected. If you don't tell RentControl to check in the equipment at an earlier date and time, RentControl will use the original rental end date as the inventory item's next availability date. Click Save to save the return date and time. To check in the equipment connected with the rental, click the Equipment button. Because the check-in date and time as it concerns inventory availability is so important, the check-in screen gives you yet another chance to specify any difference between the rental's end and the equipment's next availability. Note the radio buttons at the bottom of the screen. If the equipment is returning to inventory earlier than the rental is due to end, make sure to click the middle button, the current date and time. If the rental is ending and the equipment is returning to your inventory simultaneously, use the originally scheduled date and time. The third button will let you actually specify the date and time that your rental items are returning, if needed. Once the proper radio button has been picked, you start the check-in process by double-clicking each line item in turn. The folding chairs are pooled items, so RentControl asks you to indicate the number that came back. If not all came back, you have uncheck-in buttons you can use to adjust the number, which starts out reflecting the full number that was rented, as well as spinner buttons to change the number one at a time. If all came back, you only need to click OK. The coffee maker was a serial item, so RentControl asks us to confirm the identity of the asset using either asset number, serial number, or barcode, depending on which of these fields are present. Check the box to indicate that the item has returned. Notice that as items are returned, RentControl gives you two numbers, the original quantity requested and the number already checked in. Once those two numbers for each line item match, the rental is completely checked in and finished. Click the Back button to return to the reservation work screen. The Adjust Order button is used if you wish to make changes to the price being charged for one or more items, or if you wish to adjust the number of sale items connected with the rental. For example, to discount the coffee maker, you would start by double-clicking the line to produce a pricing screen. You can either specify a percentage reduction, for example, or you can type a new price. The auto pricing button at the far left will return the price of the item to its original price if you change your mind. This order originally included one plastic table cover, a sale item. As noted, we discounted the item when it was added to the rental. Notice the stars in the DSC field. We could further discount it by double-clicking it and using the pricing screen to increase the original discount. But there are two other things that can be done with sale items. You can use the Adjust Sales Count button to reduce the number of sale items connected with the order. For example, if you rented a sander and sold 10 pieces of sandpaper with the sander, you might use the Adjust Sales Count button to return unused sandpaper to your inventory. You can use the Add Sales Item button to add additional sale items to the order. For example, let's add another plastic table cover to this order. This produces a new line item even though there is already one table cover on the order. Moreover, notice that the table cover is added to the order at its original price. If you need to discount it also, you double-click the line item to invoke a pricing screen. Click Save when you've made all needed pricing changes. You next receive a pricing screen for the order as a whole. From this screen, you can discount all rentals, discount all sale items, or add in delivery or labor charges. RentControl provides a variety of documents for a rental. All of these documents are available from the Print button. Among other documents, you can print pickup tickets either for your drivers or warehouse workers. And if all the rental items did not return, you can print a list of unreturned equipment or provide the customer with a receipt for returned equipment. And of course, if there have been pricing changes, you will want to print a new invoice. If you have the RentControl Plus accounting system, you will use Plus to record any additional money you collect. If you don't have Plus, there is no provision to record additional money in RentControl. Because this is now a completed order because we checked in all equipment, once we click the Finish button, RentControl closes the rental so that it no longer appears in the order rental locator. If, however, you need to review it in future, use the Check-in button. Review a completed rental. Consult the other tutorials in this series for how to handle issues that arise during an active rental, like swapping out defective equipment and rolling over a rental.